Being me, being me fam, we are back with another episode with a special guest. On this episode, Andrew Robinson, pro basketball player, turned into podcaster, host, founder, man behind What's in Your Bag, All Facts Media. That is Andrew Robinson. He shares with us his story, man, of how faith impacted him on and off the court, how him going over to what seemed to be like his last season playing pro ball in Australia, he faces a knee injury. How does he navigate that? His current job working with NBA Australia and much more on this episode. BME podcast is going to be a good one.
Ça tue, ça blesse, ça flingue.
Welcome back to the Bench Mob E&T podcast, the best sports podcast in New Jersey. As you heard in the bio, we have a special guest on today. This man perfectly bridges both worlds, basketball and storytelling. The man behind the podcast of What's in Your Bag, none other than Andrew Robinson. How are you doing?
My God, man. Thank you, man. First of all, shout out to you for the intro, man. I appreciate it. You definitely got a good thing going over here, man. So, yeah, man, glad to be here, man. So, shout out to you for just having me on and looking forward to the conversation.
I appreciate you taking time out your schedule, especially, we found out it's completely different time zones we in right now. For those who are not aware, Andrew is in Australia currently. How is Australia? I just want to start there. How is it being in Australia?
Bro, I love it, bro. Australia is dope. It's really not that different from America, honestly. Obviously, it's like, I would say, a little bit safer, just as far as like just walking around and stuff like that. But like the food is pretty much the same. You can get the same food here that you can get in America. People speak English, obviously. Listen to the same music out here that they do in the States. Literally on Thursday, they had a Burna Boy concert out here. Everybody and their mama was at the Burna Boy concert. And so, yeah, bro, it's good vibes, man. I enjoy it.
That don't sound too bad. At least it's not somewhere where it's completely like a culture shock. So shout out to Australia. One day I'll get out there.
Highly recommend, man. Listen, it's a long flight, but once you get out here, you know what I mean, you'll enjoy it.
For you, right? So you've played pro basketball. We've mentioned the podcast, All Facts Media. At what point, what was the inflection point for you where you realized that you wanted to get into the media space and really started to have a mindset for after basketball?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think to start out, it honestly started when I was young, man, because I have a twin brother and we both are like sports just fanatics, honestly. And so when we were younger, we always grew up watching ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, Stuart Scott. And so our goal was like, we're going to have a show on First Take. Like it's going to be First Take, but it's going to be me and my brother debating each other. That was like our dream. We're going to have our own show on ESPN. And so when I got to high school, I immediately like got into journalism. I started taking a newspaper my sophomore year of high school. Then my junior year, I was the opinion editor of the school newspaper. And then my senior year, I was a sports editor for my school newspaper. And so I knew from like pretty young age that the media was something that I wanted to get into. And then obviously I went to college, majored in journalism, and then kind of just took it from there, honestly. So I feel like just the whole media space was something I always knew I wanted to get into. And so I've stuck with it, and it's kind of been a passion of mine since a young age, honestly.
That's dope. I remember your brother sharing that when we had him on. That was earlier this year. Full circle moment to have both of you guys on. Appreciate both of y'all for hopping on, but that is a dope story, which I told him when he was on, of you guys being on the same page and having that mindset, and you both accomplished that. And now obviously he's working with the Cavs and whatnot, but y'all both accomplished that and did it well. With you playing though, right? And being a pro player, how do you feel that's helped in your aspect of the podcast and how you ask questions? Because I know, being that you played at the highest level, a lot of players sometimes don't feel receptive to people that haven't played. You actually played, so I'm pretty sure that it helps when you're asking these questions and you're able to create them.
Yeah. I think just understanding like what questions, understanding the time and place, being able to read the room, quote unquote, is super important. And I think as a player, you kind of understood that. Like, I feel like a lot of media people, and understandably, it's their job, right, to drive clicks, shares, views, right? And so they're going to ask the questions that are going to garner the most views, the most clicks, the most engagement. For me, at the end of the day, like the way I approach my podcast and platform is of course, we all want to get views and get people to watch it because that's how you make money. Like, I'm not saying I don't want to do that, but the biggest thing for me was honestly just creating a platform for me to network and for me to have conversations. And so, while I was overseas specifically, because as you know, it's kind of like this is a, what have you done for me lately world. This is a out of sight, out of mind type of world. And so for me, I knew, kind of getting into your last question again, like I knew I wanted to get into the media after basketball. And so the podcast was just something that I was like, you know what, this is something that I can use in order to build my portfolio, build my brand while I'm playing and while I'm across the world. And so bringing it back to the questions, when I do interviews, I don't necessarily approach them as, hey, like I want you to answer this question so that I can get the most views. I really just want to have a conversation with people. And I'm okay if it doesn't go viral, honestly. You know what I mean? There's been plenty of times where like people have said something on my podcast that probably would have got a bunch of clicks and I haven't even posted it just because it's like I respect you as a person and as a player. And I know that like this might have been a great moment for the pod. And if you watch the full version on YouTube, people can see that. But it's like I'm not going to blast it on social media because people are going to take it a certain way or it's going to put people in a certain context, especially when you only have 90 seconds or less usually when it comes to social media. So people can't usually get the full context. And so there's been plenty of scenarios where I think I've just kind of chosen to value the relationship over the clicks or the views. And I think that being a player, it allows me to come from that viewpoint as opposed to when you're in the media, it's kind of just like, you know what, I don't really care about the relationship. I'm just trying to get people to view my content.
For you, if you weren't a player, do you think you would have that approach and that mindset? And like, how do you find that balance? Because, like you said, of course you want the podcast to grow. Of course you want it to garner attention and views and clicks and engagement. But at the same time, it's like at what cost?
Exactly.
How do you have that balance? And do you think you would have had that if you weren't a player?
That's a great question. I can't say honestly. Like, I mean, I've obviously played my entire life, so I don't really know how I would approach the media if I wasn't a player. I would think that just by being around other people in the media who haven't played, like I think it's a balance because, for example, I know I'll give a shout out to my homies at Switch Cultures. Like, obviously, the founder of it is these siblings, Jordan and Ashton. And Jordan played basketball, but Ashton didn't play basketball. She played volleyball, so I guess she still was obviously a super high level athlete. But like, um, she approaches interviews and things like that the same way, like as if a hooper would, you know what I mean? Because granted, she wasn't a basketball player, but she played volleyball and she kind of understands it. But I think I've seen both sides of the coin. I feel like I've seen people who haven't played sports and they have that like awareness when it comes to the media and being around players. But then I've also seen the other way where people are just absolutely unhinged with the things that they ask sometimes. And so I'm definitely grateful that I'm coming from the vantage point of an athlete and that I've had that experience. And again, I think that, even if I wasn't an athlete, I feel like I probably would still have that foresight of like, you know what, I'm using this podcast as a networking tool and, a vehicle at the end of the day. And so in order for me to do that, you need relationships. You know what I mean? I can't tell you the amount of people who I've been able to get on my podcast because like they were referred by somebody else. You know what I mean? And it's like if somebody comes on your show and you ask them a wild question or something like that, then like they're not gonna speak highly of you to anybody else. And so I've been lucky that I think people usually come on the show and they have a good time. They feel like they've been respected. They feel like they've had a good experience, and so they don't have a problem reaching out to somebody else or allowing somebody else to come on as well. And so that's always been the biggest priority for me in what I do.
I think that's so important. And even for those that haven't played, it's really, I think it boils down to like the human aspect. Like, we all are human. They're athletes, yes. They're getting paid millions of dollars, yes. Celebrities, all of the sort, but it's still the human aspect. Like, I'm pretty sure you've had these interviews where sometimes conversations get passionate. Sometimes people, because you're doing such a good job as the interviewer, they feel comfortable and they feel like they talk and they forget the cameras are there and they
Yep.
say XYZ. That's not the opportunity as a human. Would you want that to be then posted on social media and go viral? So I think that's the other aspect as a society that we come to sometimes forget the humanity of these things, of these conversations, athletes or not, like the
Yeah.
humanity aspect of it.
Yeah.
For you, what was the gap in the basketball media space for you that you felt that you needed to fill and inspired you in starting What's in Your Bag, which you kind of alluded to a little bit? And how has it been now that you have a partnership? How has that changed the approach of the podcast and how you go about it, or if anything has changed at all?
Yeah. I would say for me, it was more so just trying to showcase the athletes in a different light from what you would normally see on the court, right? And so when I was growing up, it was like if you don't, if you're not in the gym 24/7, right? Like if you're not all basketball all the time, then like you're not locked in, right? It was seen as like a negative. And so the whole idea of what's in your bag, it's like what's in your bag outside of basketball, right? And I'm trying to show people that like there are 24 hours in a day, right? I could be in the gym 2 hours getting my core work in. I could be in the weight room for 2 hours. I can get my recoveries for another 2 hours. It's only 6 hours out of my day. Like I still got 18 more hours to fill. And so all these athletes have a lot more things that make them unique, that make them special. And so the What's in Your Bag podcast was originally just something that I wanted to use as a platform to highlight those things. Because me as an athlete, like I like other things, right? I like fashion, I like content creation, I like music and business and entertainment and things like that. And so for me, like those things are super interesting for me. And so those are the type of conversations that I would try to have with athletes. And um, I think just show people that man, like you can be a high level athlete and still have a life outside of basketball. And honestly, you need to have a life outside of basketball because the game is unforgiving a lot of times, man. And you need to escape. And so that was kind of the gap I would say that I wanted to fill when it comes to what's in your bag specifically. I'm just trying to show people that man, like athletes, well, not just athletes, right? The whole more than an athlete thing, right? You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing, and just trying to highlight those things in athletes every day.
I think that's dope and something that's needed because we see it even now still. That's still a conversation, i.e., Angel Reese. Why is she at Victoria's Secret?
Right.
What, she's supposed to just stay in the gym the entire day? I mean,
Come on,
even CJ McCollum said, I forget the rookie that's on one of the young players on the Wizards. He said, I asked the young fella, what you do outside of basketball? Nothing really. He said, you don't play video games? He's like, nah. He said, you got a hobby? Nah, all I do is basketball and sleep. He said, hey, young fella, you gonna need to find you gonna need to find something. You gonna
something.
need an outlet. So that's 100% true. You definitely gotta have that in whatever field you're in. It
Yeah,
can't just be, oh, I'm just focused on being the best accountant ever. You gotta have an outlet away from that. Being
100%.
that you have freelanced for places like Boardroom and Rerun It Back, from those gigs, what have you taken from there in regards of storytelling and production into your podcast and into your content creation?
Um, I would say it's twofold, right? I would say the first thing I would say I took from those experiences and then into, I guess, my own thing was more so just like technical stuff when it comes to editing, what performs well, content. And Run It Back specifically was like, I've learned that because that was a TV show. So Run It Back comes on NBA TV, FanDuel. And so when we're editing content for a TV show, right, it's different. It's not my podcast, right? So like when it comes to TV, it's a whole different ball game, right? Like we're trying to get views, we're trying to go viral, and so like that was kind of anti what I was used to because they're like, we might have a bit. Somebody might have been talking for 2-3 minutes. They chopping it up and they posting that 30-second clip because they want people to then go and watch the show. And so, granted, I won't take that and apply that necessarily to my podcast, but just like, how do we start? That first 3 seconds is super important. And so, granted, like I said before, I'm not about to make anybody look crazy on my show, but like, even if it's a regular clip about somebody telling a story, right? There would be times where I would post something from the podcast and like, I love stories, right? Podcasts are great for stories and things like that. And so sometimes it would take a while to like get into the meat of the story. And that's great for me because I know the story. And so I'm like, oh, this is going to be great when they see this. Are they going to, but the reality is if you're just somebody who's scrolling on your phone, if I don't know this person, if I scroll, I see their face, I don't know them, and it's taking a while to get to the story, scroll. Your content is gone. And so for me, it was more so just how can I kind of merge the two, right? Let's start with the meatiest, juiciest part of the story, and then we'll get into the rest of it. Even if you edit it and like you put somebody like a laugh in the beginning, somebody going like, oh, in the beginning, and then you bring it back to the story, like, and get into it. Like that'll help your clip perform because people are saying, oh, what's so funny? Now I want to see the rest of the clip, right? What are they laughing at? Get to the rest of the clip. And so those little technical things are things that I've learned and taken from, I think, places like Boardroom and Running Back, because you just see that at the end of the day, like, you do need to get people to watch your stuff. And obviously, when it comes to Running Back and Boardroom, you're dealing with athletes and celebrities and people who are very recognizable. So, like, it's a lot easier for stuff to do well on those platforms because of the people who are on the platforms versus myself, who's a smaller creator. Like we all think I love myself. I'm sure you love the podcast, right? We think our stuff is great. So to me, it's like, of course, man, they're gonna watch this. But it's like, you gotta think about it in the grand scheme of things, we're very small, right? At the end of the day, I think I'm great, but Andrew Robertson, in the grand scheme of the world, they're gonna scroll if I don't learn how to hook them in and make people watch the clip. And so I think that's the main thing that I've probably taken from those opportunities.
You speaking to the church right there, because that's definitely something that I try to figure out as well. Like, all right, like you said, those first 3 seconds, I might think, yo, this is a gem right here. And the socials be like, nah, I don't agree.
Facts.
So
But
it's definitely something I'm learning.
the thing with that too, though, is like sometimes the algorithm is going to be the algorithm, and so like sometimes you might have a banger, right? But the algorithm just don't rock with it, and that doesn't mean that the content is less good. And I've tried to, again, it's hard, right? It's hard, but I've tried to remove the emotion of, oh, this clip didn't perform well, it must not be a good clip. To like, you know what? At the end of the day, sometimes the algorithm is not in your favor. You know what I mean? And I try to post stuff knowing that, like, you know what, I'm gonna put this out there. However it does is how it does. I'm gonna post it and I'm gonna go about my day. But you gotta kind of remove yourself from the numbers as well. Sometimes, again, like we want it to grow, we want it to do well, we want it to go viral every time we post, right? But at the same time, it's like I think it just goes back to like why are you doing it? What's the root? You know what I mean? And for me, it was always about networking, having good conversations. And so at the end of the day, the views is like, if it does well, it's great. If not, then, if one or two people can provide some value or got a laugh out of this, then cool. It's easier said than done, obviously. But sometimes it's hard, man. This content game have you like, man, this joint, how many views? I thought that was a banger. And it's like, nah, man, sometimes the algorithm just wasn't, in your favor that day. And that's okay as well.
Which algorithm do you like the most?
As far as like the platforms between like Instagram, TikTok,
and even YouTube in the mix.
Yeah, so it's changed. If you would have asked me this probably like a month ago, I would say Instagram, just because I feel like if you build a core following, like your followers will tap into your content regardless, right? And so I feel like with all facts and what's in your bag, we've built up a decent enough community to where people will at least watch our content, share, and things like that. I think being here in Australia, I don't know if it's just Australia, like I've just started trying stuff, and I've noticed that it's easier to predict what will do well on the algorithm So for example, right, me, anything like that I'm doing right now, if it's like American doing Australia stuff, it pops on TikTok. Like I've done like playing Australian football, playing rugby, making a cricket bat. Like I literally, those were like experiences that did really well. Like, but then I also just literally opened my phone, click record on TikTok, and I did like a rant about Australian public holidays, like just talking about how like, oh man, it's crazy that in Australia they get a public holiday for the AFL Grand Final, which would be like us getting a public holiday for the Super Bowl, getting the day off work like for the Super Bowl. We don't have that. I'm like, this is like something that's insane. They do it for rugby, horse racing. They get holidays for everything. And I just literally just opened my camera, click record, posted it. It did like it has a 98K. Someone put 100K views right now. And so I'm like, huh. Interesting, you know what I mean? And so that algorithm, I'm just like, I've kind of figured it out. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know me talking about Australian stuff as an American is gonna do well. Like, people care about that stuff. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just spam this content then. I'm gonna just spam it. I'm gonna just spam Australian content on TikTok. And it's been doing well. You know what I mean? I think sometimes Instagram, literally, bro, you could have a banger on Instagram, like a banger, something that you fire edit, fire transition. It's just like don't do as well as random. And so, and then YouTube, I feel like it's super random as well. Like you could post something and it does, especially on YouTube Shorts. Like you could post something and it doesn't do no views, and then you can post something random and it do 300,000. You're like, what? Like, and so I don't know. I think I'm still trying to figure out that algorithm, but I think currently, like, I've figured out that TikTok is very curated. You know what I mean? Like if you can make your content like easy to sort, like especially now everything is about like SEO, search engine optimization. And so if TikTok can easily figure out what your video is about, they're gonna push it to that audience. You know what I mean? And so yeah, you gotta crack the code, man. It's hard, but once you figure it out, you good.
Definitely still trying to figure out all these algorithms because I had a guest on, my guy Chris Lindsay, right? He was talking about, we did like a recap episode of like the 2000s. And he mentions one of the things he took away from that decade was when the basketball changed.
Yeah.
He's just talking about regularly, like, yo, you remember when the basketball changed and Kobe said he liked it and the players didn't like it? It's at like 170K. I was like, wait, why? That one, he's literally just talking about the basketball change. That was it. But it did crazy numbers. So I'm still trying to figure out all these algorithms. Maybe I gotta do Jersey specific content because I'm not in
I would
Australia.
say though, I think like when it comes to TikTok specifically, like if I'm doing something about Australia, like I said, public holiday, I'm gonna tag the location, and that always like if you put the location on the video and you're talking about something in that area, then that'll help. And so I would say just try different things, bro. Like try doing content, like because sometimes like in my homie Trey, we were just talking about this yesterday. I got a homie, we just talking about content all day. And he has like 800,000 followers on TikTok, right? And like when he was coming up, he was going viral. His stuff was like booming. And then now his stuff is performing better on Instagram. And we're talking yesterday, he was like, dang, like I don't know, like my voiceover content that is like my thing, that's my money making, my bread and butter, isn't performing as well anymore on TikTok, but they're booming on Instagram. And so the algorithm is always changing. So sometimes you gotta change your content, right? So it might just be sometimes like you can have a voiceover video that you might do, and it might just be better if you just whip the phone out and talk to the camera, like to get that FaceTime vibe. I'm like, that's what they're saying the algorithm likes nowadays. You know what I mean? And so sometimes just changing the way you're packaging the content can make a difference. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you put the podcast clip and you got the mics or whatever, it might not do as well. But if you were to just set the phone up and just talk, you might say the same exact thing, but it might do better. You know what I mean? And you being in Jersey, like I'm sure if you were to talk about something that's going on in the New York, New Jersey area and just tag Jersey on there, like it would do well because TikTok is going to streamline it. So I would say, bro, just start trying stuff, bro. Like, trying to talk about different things, post in different ways, right? Like, and just see what works. You know what I mean?
Most definitely, I take notes for that one. I did not know about doing that for the TikTok, so I'm gonna add the location for sure. You and all of your spaces, when I've seen and heard that you're comfortable talking about failure and how it's a part of the journey and the process. For you, when you talk about it, right? How has that impacted you of pushing through failure or down days in your entrepreneurship, in your podcast, in your content creation space? How has your mindset towards that impacted your life regarding your all your media?
Yeah, I think when it comes to failure, like, you know, you're never necessarily failing because each thing that you quote unquote fail at is something you can learn and take away from. And I'm a believer in the man above, and I just know that God is too good to allow me to continue to work and work and work and not receive the fruits of my labor eventually. And so I feel like all these things that we're going through now are just kind of testing your faith and just building your faith up along the way. And so when things don't go my way or when trials, tribulations, obstacles come my way, it's like, you know what? All right, like instead of saying like, dang, this didn't work, or dang, right? I just had knee surgery, man. Like season ending injury. It's like, dang, like you feel like you're at rock bottom, but you kind of got to change that to like, all right, God, like, what are you trying to show me in this season of my life, right? Like this happened to me, but what lesson can I take from this, right? Like, how can I turn this quote unquote failure into a testimony? And so for me, I've kind of tried to apply that to all areas of my life and just and when things go wrong, asking myself, you know what, God, all right, here in this moment, like, what are you trying to get up out of me, right? Maybe you're prideful, right, and you have something that you need to kind of get out of your spirit, and so it's like, all right, how can I be more humble? How can I be more grateful for the things that I have in my life? And so, um, all the things that we experience and that we go through in life are just opportunities for us to, I think, display our faith in real time. And so, for me, I try to use failure and obstacles as an opportunity for people to see that, you know what, like this happened to Andrew, but he didn't stop. This happened to Andrew, but he didn't quit. This happened to Andrew, but he's still pushing forward. And so I think if you kind of have that mentality, then it'll help you not look at failure in such a negative way. And, you know, it's more so just a setup for the next blessing that's coming your way.
Amen on that, for sure. It's definitely that's on Tom too, because I literally was just having that conversation with my wife, bro. Like your mentality, how you approach the hard times is everything. And it speaks again to you, like you said, your faith. And if you really believe what God said about you and the promises he has in his Bible, you mentioned that now, right? You're at that point right now. Have you always had that approach and that mentality towards it? If not, what triggered you for you be like, all right, I need to lock in and just actually be consistent in my faith and believe, good or bad, God is gonna come through.
Yeah, I feel like I grew up in church and I was raised in church. And so I feel like I always had that mentality, but I didn't always like live it. You know what I mean? I didn't always apply that mentality actively. I think what changed, because I mean, I lost both of my parents growing up. And so I've been through just a lot, just sickness, death, poverty, everything growing up. And so I feel like if it wasn't for the grace of God, I would have been messed up a long time ago. I would have gave up a long time ago, right? I could have quit many times along the way. But I think what kind of really like humbled me, I would say, was honestly this last season playing in Australia. Like I was at a kind of an inflection point with my career because I had just finished working with running back. I was in LA, got my first job in the industry, and I was like, dang, like is my basketball career over? Like, and I ended up getting an offer to come back here to Australia to play. I'm like, you know what, God, all right, maybe this is my last hurrah. I'll go out, I'll play this last season, and then I'll get back to LA and I'll go into the next phase of my life. And I get here to Australia, and then boom, fourth game of the season, like ruptured patellar tendon, torn meniscus. And I had all these plans and all these ideas for what my season was going to be like in Australia. And like I was going to be able to kill right over to the sunset, and that's it. And then, you know, God had other plans. And so this was the first time where it was truly like I had no choice but to just trust him. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, clearly, God, you didn't bring me here to Australia for no reason, right? Like there's a purpose for me being here. And so I don't know what that is. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why you would allow me to come here, tear my knee up the fourth game of the season, but I'm going to trust you. You know what I mean? And I feel like the fruits of that have been me being able to stay here. And then I started working with NBA Australia out here, which was something I never would have imagined doing before, right? It just kind of came from networking and meeting the right people, having the right conversations. And now I'm working in the industry here in Australia that I thought I would never have the opportunity to do unless I was back home in LA. But God is like, yo, nah, like this happened to you. It's a reason for you to be here. And so when I kind of got that opportunity with NBA Australia, it was like, all right, God, like you didn't, whatever God takes from you, he's going to restore tenfold. Like that's in the Bible. It's in his word. And so for me, this was honestly just like a living out of that like faith, honestly, that where something catastrophic happened. This is the first injury I ever had in life where I had to have surgery. And it's
Wow.
happening toward the end of my career, which is crazy. And so this is probably the biggest obstacle I've ever had when it comes to my basketball career. And I made a video about this on my Instagram. I was like, you know, when I came out here to Australia, I was like, all right, God, like, you know, just use me in a great way. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to strengthen my faith, right? And a lot of times you pray for faith, God doesn't give you faith, right? You pray for faith, and God will give you an opportunity to display your faith. And so I said, God, strengthen my faith. And he gave me a mountain that was so big that I could only get over it by having faith. And so in a weird way, I got what I asked for, but it didn't look the way I thought it was going to look. And so for me, it was like, okay, like now it's time for you to actually walk out your faith and display that. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity to do that. And I think turning that mindset from like, dang, this happened to me, this catastrophic injury happened to me, to like, all right, boom, this is opportunity for you to show your faith. Because when I get over this mountain, when I do get to the other side, I'm gonna be able to say the only way that I was able to do that is because of God. You know what I mean? And that's what he wants at the end of the day. Is for us to understand. Sometimes God will humble you, man, because you know us we get real prideful. But oh, I did this, I did that. Man, you see my resume. You see, I worked here. I got this job over here. Yeah, I'm popping. And God is like, all right, I want to show you. Watch this. Watch this. And so I think that that's something that honestly, like I said, I've always kind of had faith, but I feel like this newest obstacle was something that really just changed the way I had to view it, because I had no choice but to just trust in what he got going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true. Cause I've been in situations. Oh Lord, let my fruit patience get bigger. He, you don't know how he's gonna come with it. And I
Yeah.
heard somebody say this before at my church is like, when you tell God and you surrender and say that I want to be your instrument, you don't get to choose how he plays you. I said,
Nope.
Lord, I said, Lord, ain't that the truth? I didn't mean this when I said patience. I didn't mean this when I said faith. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, I could definitely relate to that for sure. God, you can't convince me otherwise that God don't have a sense of humor. You
Oh,
can't.
God will laugh. God is hilarious. Hey, look, you tell God your plans, he gonna laugh. Uh-huh. Okay. That's funny. That's cute.
Exactly. You want to make God laugh? Tell him, oh yeah, this is my 10-year plan. Oh,
LOL.
okay.
LOL.
So for you, right? How do you go about before we even get into that? You just mentioned NBA Australia. So what role do you have with NBA Australia? Is that in the media space?
Yeah, media. So I'm doing social media still. So like kind of same thing I was doing with running back. Like I'm handling all of our like organic social media content. And so anything that we do when it comes to like we had a shoot, right? So let's say we did a shoot with Dyson Daniels, Josh Giddey, and Johnny Furphy. Those are like the Melbourne Australian guys that we had in the offseason. And we would do like a photo shoot with them. So we would take stills, we would do like a film breakdown, and then we would do a social segment to where we're basically recording a bunch of content that we're going to release throughout the season while they're over in the States. And so my job would be to gather all the social questions, all the fun stuff, right? Like we did one with Dyson, like rapid fire with your Hawks teammates. Who's best dressed? Who's the best gift giver? Most likely to pick up the tab. Favorite teammate to sit next to on a flight. All that kind of fun stuff that does really well on social media. That kind of continue to allow the fans to get to know the players kind of behind the scenes. So I'll come up with all that stuff, record it. I'll do like voiceover content for us. We're doing like an NBA season preview right now that I'll like, edit and put all the voiceovers together and things like that. So that's my role with them, and just kind of continuing to build the resume as far as the whole social media space.
That's fire right there. And to know that obviously being in the social media space, I had an idea of this, but to know that this stuff is recorded months ago and we just have it ready to be able to post whenever, which is I think is always the best thing if you're able to batch content and then just drop it whenever or whenever it seems fit. That's kind of the best way to be. Going back to your podcast, right? For you, how do you go about choosing your guests, especially being that, like you mentioned, you have interest in not only sports but fashion and music. How do you go about choosing who you have on the show?
I would say first is just relationships, right? So I'll have people who I know, obviously, like people who I played against, people who I have personal relationships with. But honestly, I stole this from All the Smoke podcast. At the end of every episode, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, they'll be like, yo, who should we have next on the podcast? But whoever you say, you got to give us the assist to help us get them on. And so I've done that after every episode. And I've gotten so many people that be, oh, you should have this person on. And again, like, it goes back to the experience that they have. Like, if they have a good experience, they'll be like, hey, so-and-so, I just did this podcast. You should jump on. They make a group chat. And I've gotten so many people on the podcast just from that. Like, some people just recommending other people and then mutuals. And then it's like once you put the podcast out and people come to your page and they see their friends is on there, then they're more likely to come on the show because they're like, okay, so-and-so was on, cool, I'll jump on. And so that's been like a blessing for me. But as far as like me picking out who I want to have on, honestly, like selfishly speaking, bro, like I said, like when I was playing basketball abroad, I knew that I wanted to get into the media. And so when I first started the Whistling Your Bag podcast, we had like just strictly athletes. It was like NBA guys, overseas guys that were playing, and we were talking about their off the court life and stuff. But then I was like, if I want to work in the industry after this, then I need to have people on the podcast who are working in the industry. So I started having photographers on, people who like shoot the players in the tunnel, who work for like League Fits will come on the podcast. I've had social media managers, people who shoot for Overtime or the NBA or GQ Sports. They come on the show. I've had people who are managers come on the show. We've had stylists, people who are like dressing the players that are doing the tunnel walks on the show. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, if I can get these people on the podcast and I can have a 90-minute conversation with you, right? Like at the end of that, I could have never met you before, but we have a 90-minute conversation. I think that I'm good enough at what I do that I can kind of build a relationship and a rapport with somebody to where, now, we have a relationship and a connection. And so after, like, hey, you're more likely to recommend me, hey, man, I had this conversation with Andrew, a job comes open here, like, hey, you should apply for this. Or just learning something, honestly, you know what I mean? Bro, I've learned so much, like, about the job that I want to have from people who have come on the podcast and told me how they did it. And so that was kind of how I finessed it, bro. And that's kind of how it was healthy for me, bro, because, again, like, this is a fickle game, man. Like, if you're not putting up, 10K, 20K views on Instagram, it's like, dang, man. You're like, dang, man, I may as well just give it up. But for me, it was like, I'll never give it up because no matter how many views this podcast got, I, as a host, gained so much knowledge and information from people who I was talking to. And, like, I've learned so the job I have now, I don't even know how I would have the job I have now if it wasn't for the podcast, like just editing it daily, producing it myself, getting the reps, uploading, cutting. I only got my job when I applied for my job at running back. They were like, all right, well, have you ever worked in social before? Have you ever because it's a TV show again. They're like, do you know how to cut up clips and post them to social and do you know how to select what would do well? I'm like, actually, I've been doing this in my podcast. Hey, this is a clip that I shot I did it myself. I produced it. I selected it. I captioned it. I started it with a good hook, and it got 200,000 views on All Facts. I know how to add B-roll to clips. Like I know how to find compelling B-roll and overlay it to my podcast. And I was able to get a job. I was able to get hired, and I was able to use the things that I had done on my own for free, never made $1 off, to get a job in the industry because they could see a tangible skill set that they could apply to their show. Because the same thing I was doing for All Facts, having a 90-minute conversation, picking the best clip and posting it to social, and having that do X amount of views is the same thing I was doing for Run It Back, watching the TV show, picking the hottest take, posting it on social, right? And so I never would have got those reps if I didn't have a podcast. And I can go on and on about this forever, but I've just learned so much and gained so much from having a podcast that's far beyond any amount of views or money that I made. And so to go back to your question, when it comes to selecting people to come on the show, it was like, all right, like, again, the referrals, personal relationships, but then it was like also, okay, this person is doing a job that I would like to do. Let me try to get them on the show and just pick their brain and ask them how they got there. And I think that's a big thing now when it comes to what's in your bag. We probably have more creators and people in the industry on than athletes. Now, I don't even remember the last time we had like a current athlete. It's probably been like almost a year, to be honest. We've had strictly people who have like retired from sports and gotten into the next field or are like, supplemental in the industry or adjacent in some capacity. So that was a long-winded answer. I'm sorry, but that was kind of a full circle.
No apology needed because, again, for me, it's the same type of mindset I have with it, where it's like right there, you sharing that one, great information, two, confirmation from me of encouragement, like, yo, keep going, because that's the mindset of like, yo, there's nothing coming from it as of yet, but it's the connections and the conversations. And this is why, like, I started the podcast. I titled it Bench Mob ENT, basically, which, sometimes in the space, and athletes, fans will view that person as the eighth man on the bench, the ninth man on the bench, like, oh, they booty, they trash, but actually they have value. They could still go drop 30. They just not in the right situation to do so, and they're in the league, so they're not trash, but they're on the bench. Use that across all of life. If you're on a proverbial bench in life, you still have value. So I've had photographers on, I've had the cameraman on, the videographer, the coaches, the assistant coaches, the trainers, definitely of the same mindset. And I had the thought process to do the all the smoke approach. With you saying that, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that now too as well. I'm gonna add it because
Work smarter, not harder. Work smarter, not harder.
that's actually genius, because I see them do it all the time, and it's just like they're doing well. Some of these guests they get on is like you said, it's perfect. If I did a good enough job that you had a great conversation with me, boom, now we
Exactly. And you're not
makes
gonna
it
get
easier.
everybody. Everybody's not gonna, or somebody they might recommend somebody and then they don't come on. But like, there's also people who might give you two people, and then both of them might come on. You know what I mean? So it's like I've had that happen. Like, oh man, damn, I can't even choose one. Let me give you two. Cool, right? You know what I mean? And so I've had it both ways. I have people that have given me recommendations that we never ended up getting them on the pod, but like, hey, the ones that work, it works.
Hey, that's most definitely the best mindset to have, and it ends up working out for sure, because like you said, it's the bigger picture within that. So I think it's a genius process of what you're doing right there. So anybody that's listening to this, watching this, that feel inspired by your story, that wants to get into the same space, that wants to chase their dreams in general, what piece of advice would you give them?
Yeah, honestly, so I get this question a lot because people will be like, "Dang, how do you, work in the NBA? Like, what did you do?" And I'll say a couple things, right? There's one girl I have on the podcast. I got to give her flowers. Her name is Julia Adams, and she changed the whole way I went about it because we kind of had the same background. We went to school for journalism degrees, and we were trying to both be in like TV media. But it's like when you're coming up in journalism school, they'll tell you like, all right, man, you come out of college, and you might got to start off, in Topeka, Kansas. That'll be your first job. You'll work in Topeka for 2 or 3 years, small, medium market, and then you'll work your way up. Then you'll be in, Columbia, Missouri, and you'll be in Columbia, Missouri for like 3 years, 3, 4 years, and then you do your work there. Then you'll get to a little bit bigger market, then you'll get to Philly, you might be in Philly for like 5 or 10 years, and then by the time you're at year 20, you'll get that ESPN gig and you're big time, man. You're prime time, New York, da-da-da. I'm like, it's going to take me 20 years to get the ESPN. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And she said something that like just changed how I thought about it. Because she was like, yo, like that is kind of the way if you want to go the traditional route. And you can be, Barbara Walters, right, and interview Barack Obama. And it might take you 40 years to get there. Or you can work in social media where I might not get that sit down interview across from you, but I can still interview LeBron the same way. Cause I can see LeBron at the draft and say, hey, LeBron, what is your favorite, NBA draft outfit? Or what is your favorite memory from what is your, I don't know, you're welcome to the NBA moment, right? And I can still interview LeBron, right? It's the same thing, it's just different. And so I would say like leveraging social media has been able to get me way more opportunities than if I would have went the more, traditional route. And so I think that people who want to work in social media, the first thing is to just start shooting your own content, but look at what content is getting posted, right, on the NBA, right? For me, I was looked up to like Boardroom, Uninterrupted when it came to like All Facts Media, and so I would look at how content looked on those pages, and I'll try to make my content look like that. And so if you're trying to work in the NBA, like look at the things that the NBA is posting, right? And then see how you can create content that looks like that. Because at the end of the day, they're going to want to see examples of your work. You need to be able to show, hey, this is what I can do. And this is how what I can do will fit into what you're doing. And so that's the first piece of advice I would say. And then the second thing I would say, just continue to like network, have conversations, right? Like the most important thing at the end of the day is, because it's hard, man. Like if you're applying for jobs on like LinkedIn, bro, it's hundreds and thousands of applicants. And it's going to be incredibly hard for you to like break through the cracks if you don't know people that are in those spaces. And so I would say for people who are trying to work in sports, like show up to All-Star Weekend, go to the events, right? Like I've went to All-Star Weekend in the last 2 years. Like I paid for my own flight. I've gotten there, like got my own accommodations, and I've just been able to get in the rooms, meet people, network. And a lot of times, man, like you can do the best work, but people just need to like see you in the room. They need to see you. They need to put a face to the name a lot of times. And so you can do incredible work, but if nobody ever sees you and nobody knows kind of who you are, it's going to be hard for you to kind of make those connections that are going to be able to get you a job or get you an opportunity. And so all the jobs that I've gotten have been a product of just me networking and meeting people and people who have seen my work and then been like, hey, I think that you will fit great here. You know what I mean? Or we could use what you do. And so I think that would be my biggest piece of advice is to do it yourself first. Try to mimic the quality of the work that you're trying to get into. And then just put yourself in the room as much as you can. Like if you're trying to work in the NBA, you should be at Summer League every offseason in Vegas, right? Meeting people. People are just walking around the concourse, right? There are so many activations and events that are free that you can go to. And then All-Star Weekend as well. Get to All-Star Weekend. That's a little bit more kind of like invite type of situation, but there's still things that you can go to that are free events, activations that you can put yourself in the room to meet people. And those would be the tangible things that I would recommend people should do if they're trying to work in the NBA or just work in social media in general.
We're going to transition to the fourth quarter segment. Some fun questions. Again, thank you for hopping on, taking time out of your schedule. For those that are watching, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It's a lot of gems, a lot of wisdom from this. And follow him because it's going to be some great content you'll see. And of course, his podcast, What's in Your Bag. Best sneaker on the court you've owned.
See, I thought about this because I'm not a sneakerhead, you know what I mean? And so for me, people, oh yeah, man, this is the best shoe. I honestly the first shoe that came to my mind was I had these black Kyries when I was in Japan. I don't even know what number they were because I don't really buy basketball shoes like that. Most times people just give me shoes like, and these, one of my OGs on the team that gave me some Kyries, one of my Japanese vets, he gave me some Kyrie's because they were too big for him. I think he wore 13. They were a size 14, but they were these all black Kyrie's. Whenever he was still with Nike though, so these are like one of the last Kyrie's that he had. They were like mid to high top Kyrie's, and they were comfortable, man. It lasted me the whole time I was in Japan. And so I'll probably say those. I'm not sure what number they are, but if y'all go on my Instagram and you want to see them, they if you scroll back to when I was in Japan, I wore them Jones every game. All black Kyrie's. I can go check those out on my page.
I don't remember the names either, but I know exactly what ones you're talking about. A lot of
Yeah,
people mention those as their favorites. So I don't remember
yeah,
the name either because I'm not a sneakerhead myself.
yeah.
But yeah, most definitely one
Good
of my
comfort.
favorite pairs.
Facts.
I love the Kyrie's when he was Nike.
Nah,
Kyrie's,
man.
Kobe's.
He got some fire with Anta though. He do got some fire with Anta. He do got some fire with Anta.
Yeah, I saw that the answer work is good. I haven't got a pair yet, but I
Yeah.
love all of it. These items always in your bag when you fly for games or podcasts.
I mean, gotta have the phone charger. That's number one, because obviously I'm always recording, so my phone won't die for sure. So, and then I got my Sony ZV-1X. That's my vlogging camera. I try to bring that along my trips because I like to vlog now. I'm trying to get into my YouTube bag. So, Sony ZV-1X is in there. I got another camcorder that gives me that like vintage aesthetic that I'll bring as well. Because again, like I love to just kind of take content. So I'll kind of change the vibe up. So those two cameras are in there. My tripod is in there because you got to be able to pop the camera up sometimes and get some shots. So both my cameras, tripod, phone charger. Sometimes when I'm doing a content trip, I'll bring mics just because the audio is a little bit wonky sometimes. So I have some Bluetooth mics that I'll bring. And I got 3 SD cards because sometimes you just never know. Like storage be getting crazy, so got to bring 3 SD cards. I have an adapter, so I can take the footage right from my camera, put it on my computer. That helps me just kind of, if I want to put something on my phone real quick, I can do that. So yeah, bring the adapter, a lot of content equipment, honestly. But we prepared though. We prepared because you know what I mean. I'm I'm one of them people who like my Instagram is like a visual diary, so I love to just record stuff and be able to have things to look back on. So I'll go on the road. I'm definitely bringing all those in the bag to make sure that we can, capture the vibe.
Okay, so I have every single guest that I have come on. I love food, love to eat food, love to watch shows about food, cooking. I love to cook, all that good stuff. What's been your favorite food you discovered in Australia?
So this is I don't want to let people down, man. But I would say the food is honestly the same. To be honest with you, like they love their steaks, pasta, and things like that. The best thing I've had here honestly wasn't like a food. It was like a snack. So they have these things called Tim Tams. It's like a chocolate like wafer almost. Fire. And they don't have them in America. And I brought them back to the crib and had my family try them. They loved them. And I recently had they had this in America. This never TikTok video did. They have the Cadbury chocolates, and they have
Mhm.
I think Cadbury is a UK brand, but they have it obviously here in Australia, and they have it in America. They have Cadbury the brand in America, but it's owned by Hershey's in America, so the recipe is different, so it don't taste the same
Mm.
here. And that Cadbury chocolate that I had out here, boy, that's top 5 chocolate on my mama. So I would say those are the first two things that stick out to me that are like specific to Australia. The
Mm.
Tim Tams and then the Cadbury chocolate. That again, I don't shoot me. They have it in America, but it's not the same recipe, so it ain't the same. All right, so those would be the two things that I would say. Other than that, like I still be eating pasta, going out for my. They have really good Asian fusion here. Is one thing that's really good here because of the geographic location. There are a bunch of like just Vietnamese people, Chinese people, Taiwanese people here. So like they got all type of just hot pot and dim sum and this any type of Asian food you want. They got it out here in Australia, and it's really good. So I think those would be the things that if I was going to like distinguish something as far as food wise, that's what I would say.
That's fire right there. For you, we're gonna go with this one. Podcast guest, alive or dead, that you would love to have on your show.
I mean, this is LeBron. Like, I would love to talk to LeBron. That's my favorite player, best of all time. So I love to talk to him about just like the basketball stuff. But honestly, I would love to talk to him about just the off the court stuff too, man. Like, he's been uninterrupted. He has his own media platform. He's acting, right? He's done movies. He's a incredible businessman and entrepreneur. Like, he's the face of like more than an athlete, which is everything I try to build my whole brand around. And so I would love to talk to him about how he has the capacity to do all those things, and just what that has looked like for him being in the spotlight since he was a sophomore in high school. He's been famous for more of his life than he hasn't been famous, and I would just love to know what that has been like for him, honestly. So yeah, definitely LeBron for sure.
Most definitely. I think anybody, there's so much meat there where you can go a very a ways of
Yeah,
marriage, fatherhood, business. It's very, very, I think that would be one of the easiest in
yeah,
regards of creating your rundown for that. Oh, I got a
right.
bevy of questions. We going, hey, bro, how much time can you have? Because we
No,
going,
literally. But hold on, too though. I'm gonna give you one more only because that's like very generic. You know what I mean? And so I want to give you another one that's off script. You know what I mean? I'm gonna throw the viewers off with this one. Throw the viewers off with this one. This is something that'll come out of left field, right?
Mhm.
So this one, it's a woman, right? And this is somebody who I'm gonna put y'all on game, man, because once I say her name, y'all gonna be like, what? Who? But I gotta give her flowers. You know what I mean? 'Cause I love this person, man. She's literally one of my favorite creators, and I look up to her a lot, which is crazy because we're in completely different niches. But I would say somebody who, because LeBron is like, yeah, that's whatever. That's everybody's dream podcast guest. I would say this person actually I haven't seen her do a podcast yet, and so I am putting this into the atmosphere because I want to have her on my podcast. So I'm gonna speak it into existence. And I almost had her on my podcast low key like a year or two ago, but Monet McMichael. And for all y'all who don't know who that is, she's from Jersey, actually. She's from South Jersey, went to Rutgers, but she's like a content creator. She's honestly into like the beauty and like fashion, not beauty, like just beauty, makeup, all that kind of stuff, niche. But she's a YouTuber as well. She makes incredible content. Like, her vlogs are popping. I've been watching her YouTube stuff. She does like brand trip recaps and like all type of crazy, insane stuff. And I know this is supposed to be like a rapid fire thing, but I got to give her flowers on this because I think this is another thing that I feel like will be a gem for people. As a creator, no matter what you're doing, you should be able to draw inspiration from a bevy of different industries and niches. And so for me, right, she might be doing a makeup get ready with me, and that doesn't necessarily appeal to me, but it's more so, okay, what's her hook? How is she editing? What transitions is she using? Like, how is she keeping users engaged? And that stuff can translate to my content. She's an amazing editor, and she does some fire videos. And so for me, I posted a video about her maybe like a year or two ago, and she commented on it. I think her mom saw it, shared it. I was talking to her mom, yo, my Dukes, don't be lying. I'm trying to get her on the pod. Oh yeah, hit up her management, da 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 da. And so I was like, damn, if I hit up her management, they're probably gonna tax me. But you feel me? I'm putting out there again into the atmosphere because I know God listens to his people. So Monet, I'm gonna get her on the podcast one day, because I feel like she's an incredible person, and I would love to just pick her brain, man, on just her life, because honestly, too, like, she's very vulnerable with what she's sharing with the internet, and a lot of times she talks about how people be in her comments, just negativity, like, and so I love to know just how she kind of navigates that and continues to just show up. But that's an off script one. I had to give you one that was off script. You know what I mean? Because again, like, LeBron that's my dream guest, but somebody who, like, I actually tangibly think one day I could sit across from is Monet. So I want to put that into the atmosphere because one day it's gonna happen, and I'm gonna be like, hey, bro, send me that clip. Send me that clip. I need it. I manifested this. You know what I'm saying?
hey, to what you were saying earlier of choosing which clips to post, this is one of the clips that we're gonna post. We gonna tag her and see if we can facilitate some way, somehow.
Back here
For
in the comments.
sure. Most definitely. All right, last one before we get you out of here, right? If you could produce a mini documentary, a mini doc about any moment in basketball history, what would it be and why?
Damn. Any moment in basketball history. Dang. That's a great question. Any moment in basketball history. That's a great question. I think I would probably do it on like one of the like there are a bunch of different like insane like what ifs that happened like in basketball that would have changed the course of history. So like I think it was in maybe like 2000. Like Tim Duncan almost signed with the Orlando Magic, and it didn't happen. But like that would have changed the course of history. Like there was the what if of if Melo went to the Pistons and they would have picked him instead of Darko Milicic. People say, oh, they would have ran off X amount of championships. But I think it was like maybe Rasheed Wallace just came out recently and said if they would have had Melo, he don't think they would have won because they wouldn't have gotten Tayshaun Prince and then they wouldn't have like just the role that he played. It would have been different, and so I think that it just what if the Trailblazers didn't pass on Jordan and they drafted him instead? You know what I mean? Like there are a bunch of different like what ifs that have like things that have like almost happened in NBA history that I think would be really cool to just dive in and explore like what that really would have looked like and how that would have just changed the landscape of a lot of people's careers. So that's probably what I would do it on, I would say.
That's fire because I legit just started on my other podcast. I just started doing some like what ifs. Like I just did what if Lynn bias. Granted, not a mini doc because we again that 90 second. But
Yeah,
I'm in the same mindset of those are so intriguing because, like you said, it literally changes the course of not only basketball history but sometimes history in general, i.e., the Lynn bias situation that was bigger than basketball. That's a bigger than what if basketball because it
yeah,
impacted laws and everything like that. So that's completely different. But those are definitely very intriguing. The what ifs. I'm always locked in when I hear those and the breakdowns of the what ifs. They had a podcast. It was only for one season. I think it was Trey Wingo and somebody where it was called like course, different courses, whatever, and they just went through all the what ifs, like from all the sports, like what if Drew Brees didn't get injured, and what if, and hearing all the different tentacles that came from, like, oh, that's crazy.
crazy. Like it just changes the whole. What if I just this is on my mind because James Harden was just talking about this in the starting five, and KD was talking about it like how he was like shocked when the Thunder traded him to the Rockets and like they paid Ibaka instead of him. It's like what if and KD like and then LeBron was like wishing Harden, oh congrats man, he about to kill it in Houston. And KD was like man. You ain't happy for him. We was on y'all last. You just happy because y'all got to play us in the finals. Like, what if he would have stayed? Like, do the Thunder? How many championships do they win? How does that affect the Heat and LeBron's like legacy? Right, like all these different scenarios. Right, like it's just crazy to even think about. That's one of the more intriguing ones that I would think of because the Thunder probably do win at least one championship, maybe more. But then James Harden never becomes James Harden. You know what I mean? Like Russell Westbrook probably never becomes an MVP. Like there are so many different things that transpire from there. If that would have happened, they probably would have never gotten Shea and J Dub because they probably would never been like bad enough to facilitate that. Paul George traded. We got them the asset, like all these different things that
Literally.
just ripple effect. You know what I mean? And so I think those things just always have my mind spinning.
Yeah, most definitely for sure. I same mindset because like with that one, how do we talk about Russell Westbrook now? Because some people love him, some people hate him.
Yeah.
If you got that ring attached to that name, it's a little they talk about you a little bit differently. So most definitely for sure. But y'all know the vibes here at the BME podcast. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. Benchmark, we out. Peace.